Hey, Julia Barzik here from Investigator. So today I want to talk to you about the Department of Defense YIPs, or YIPs, Young Investigator Program, specifically from Office of Naval Research and AFOSR, or the Air Force Office of Scientific Research. So these are two programs, one at Navy and one at Air Force, that have been around for a really long time. They're super prestigious. They provide as high as $750K funding in the case of the Navy to a early career investigator, and there are certain criteria, how many years into your faculty position you could be. You've got to be a permanent resident for those, or are you a citizen? And these are, again, very prestigious awards that have high visibility, and they're very desirable for that reason for new faculty. And when many new faculty are thinking about getting into DoD, getting funded by DoD, collaborating with DoD, they think of these YIP awards as a good way to do that. And that's completely understandable. So I'm going to talk a bit about those today. But what I want to ask you first is if you have gotten value from this channel, the YouTube videos, or even just this video now, if it's the first one you're watching, could you please be sure to subscribe to the channel? Click the button that's going to let you get all of the updates and like the video, because I have exciting news, and that is that University of California Press will be publishing a book that I will author on the research funding process. And for that reason, it's important to get visibility up so that we can let people know about the book. And it's going to take a while for that book to actually be published and be in print and be in people's hands. So what that means is there's a lot of time to build up the visibility of Wise Investigator. That will help the book, and it'll help get the information out, which is what the book is for. So this is a very niche topic. It's like niche within niche. Everyone says they have a niche YouTube channel, right? But this is super niche because it's not only for academics, it's for STEM researchers within academia, and we're not generating content that's specifically targeted at students. But I would really encourage you to get your students to subscribe to my newsletter, to watch these videos, because you will understand that this is the kind of information that's going to help your students if they plan to continue a career in research, even if they're not applying for funding right now. So if you would do that for me, I would appreciate it very much. Now, let's get back over to YIPs. So we are just about to enter the month of August. And so far, we do not see any announcements from Air Force or Navy about YIP solicitation, right? They're not asking for proposals for the YIP program. Now, this could be concerning to people, right? And why are they not out? Well, both of those organizations have had significant effects to their budget and restructuring and reductions in certain lines that may be associated with the funding lines for those programs. So the bottom line is it doesn't matter exactly why those programs are not announced this year to you as an early career investigator. Like I always say, there are people within your institution who are looking at the federal funding landscape at a high level, and they're strategizing about what's going down here, what's going up there. But you don't need to worry about that. That is their job. What you need to worry about is how you are going to get funding for your own research and support your students, support your lab, and grow your career. And so, of course, you are going to read the news on these things and keep abreast of it, but you don't want to go dive down into the details and into a rabbit hole of specific funding lines and stuff like that. There are other people who do that. So you just take guidance from them because you have limited bandwidth. So what I'm going to be talking about here is what steps you can take that related to activities you can actually control, and how you can get ahead and certainly at least not get behind in this new environment that we're in. So here's the mistake. And this is a situation where I don't want to be right, okay? I'm going to say I told you so. I'm going to say I was right because I know I was right about this, and I've been right about it ever since I started advising clients back in early 2023. And that is, you do not want to be waiting for these special announcements like YIP. And the YIP was a great example of that, but it's certainly not the only one. When you need to get funding, when you want to connect with a part of the government, a potential sponsor, you never want to wait. So back in January, I mean, this happens all throughout the year, but I can think specifically of this past winter, talking to certain PIs who are saying, "Oh, I'm interested in the YIP. So I'm just going to wait for that to come out, or, once I see that announcement, then I'll start reaching out to DoD." And I always advise that that's not a good strategy. We have supported clients who have won YIP and other early career awards. So it's not that I'm not supportive of those awards or that I don't know how those awards work, because I do. If you can get something like that, that is wonderful, but it is not the only way to get funded by DoD or anywhere else. So it's not a good strategy to wait for these kinds of announcements because they can come very late. Last year in 2025, those were announced in the summer. People were scrambling to get those proposals in a short time period over the summer. Now those announcements are not even out. So if you had been waiting, you were waiting for nothing. And again, I don't want to be right about these kinds of things, but in this case, our guidance was correct. It's been correct since 2023, which is not to put all your eggs in one basket, say, and count on these announcements, because there were issues with things changing and things being unpredictable, timelines being messed up, and again, unpredictable. A lot of that had to do with the repeated continuing resolutions, government shutdowns. So the dysfunction and everything we're seeing right now, it did not just start with the current administration. There have been changes and problems, in my opinion, for a long time. And we've certainly seen an acceleration of some of those changes, but a lot of this was already in the works in some form or another. It just may have not been so obvious to you because you weren't inside the system and seeing how these things were changing and, frankly, kind of breaking down in terms of a predictable annual schedule. And not to get too philosophical about that, but times are changing anyway, and things are more dynamic. Things are happening more quickly. So for many years or decades, when we had predictable schedules for this is when an announcement comes out, this is how long it takes to evaluate it, this is when you expect a result, there are good things about that. But I think that things are just changing and we're moving away from that. And we have been, and now we are moved away from it. So again, we have advised that you do the outreach whenever you feel that you have something that you could talk to somebody about. Now, what's the alternative? So what are you going to do if you're a new investigator and you are interested in getting DoD funding or just exploring the possibility? Well, we've worked with plenty of clients who have gotten DoD funding from core programs, and these are in some cases very early career clients. And it's no problem. Okay. So getting a regular single investigator core program type award, these are now often coming in around $500K or more, or maybe a little less, but these are great awards. No, it's not a consolation prize. It's not a second best. It basically functions the same way as these early career awards. And you don't have to be a permanent resident or a U.S. citizen to get these regular core awards. So that's what you want to go for. We've had clients who came to us saying they're interested in the YIP. They started having conversations with people at DoD. And before the YIP announcement even came out, they had already gotten funded in some cases on a core program. So the core programs are where you're at. Now, in terms of how you're going to go and pursue those, I'm not going to get into all of that in this video, or it'll get too long and on too much of a tangent. But the bottom line is you're just going to have to do outreach to the people in those positions. You're going to have to talk to them. You send them things like research menus, and you lead with the science. You lead with the research of what you want to do. And that's the guidance that I've always given. And then if somebody's interested in that, they will talk to you about, okay, well, what vehicle, what funding mechanism could we use to get you funded? And I just remember today that the DURIP instrumentation announcement came out. So in that case, if you're talking to somebody and they say, oh, you're going to need instrumentation for that, well, maybe you could submit for a DURIP. Well, then you start talking about that. You don't just go into the program officer and say, I want a DURIP or I want a YIP. You go in and you talk about the research, get them excited about the research idea, and then you're in more of a collaborative conversation. Okay, well, what mechanism could we use to get this funded? What kind of budget would be needed to get this work done? So that's the approach you want to take. And to back up my point a bit about how important it is to reach out to these people when you have an idea, if you will check out one of the videos that I did, which is an interview with one of the former DARPA program managers. I've got 2 former DARPA folks on there as interviews, but in one of the videos, my interviewee stated explicitly, never wait to contact DARPA. Okay, never wait to contact DARPA. And you don't want to wait to contact anyone at DoD, and you don't want to wait to contact anybody at any funder. Okay, there may be some very specific reasons why it would make sense for you to wait, but 99.5% of the time, okay, you not want to wait to contact them. So it's not just me saying that. That's, I've got that on record, right? I've got that recorded from Dr. Chandrasekhar, former DARPA program manager. Okay, so what else will we want to remember about these programs? Well, again, they are very prestigious. And I don't know if they're going to be back for fiscal year 27. I don't know if they're back, if they would be back in a different form. If they are back, they're still going to be prestigious. If they are back, and we can support clients in their submissions, because I'm not in any way saying that if you have a chance to win a YIP that you shouldn't take that. They are excellent opportunities. So you just want to make sure that you're not missing a lot of other really, really solid opportunities because you're fixated on the YIP. And not to blame you for thinking that way if you have been, but it's just a mental shortcut, right? You hear, okay, early career. I'm an early career person. Maybe the competition is less. I'm telling you, the competition, do not assume that it's less, because the people who are applying for these things often have a very, very competitive package that they put together. So, I mean, if you want to compete against the, top dozen or 24 people in your field only, you could win. Some people win. But that's tough, right? When you're competing in the regular pool, it can also be extremely competitive, but there's a lot more variables. It could be a little bit slower in one season, and you could have a topic that pulls you up to the top because that's a priority area for the program manager. And so you're not competing in exactly the same way as you are when you're competing for something like YIP or, for example, PCASE or something like that. So my closing message here is to reach out to the funders when you have research that could fit their program. I don't know if we're going to see an announcement for YIP. Keep in mind, too, I should also say that for the Army Early Career Program, that is something that doesn't have its own announcement. That just goes through the core programs at Army Research Office. So you still have a chance for that one there if you're still fixated on getting one of these named awards. But for that, it's the same advice. You just want to reach out to the program manager at ARO, talk to them about your ideas, get them excited about that, and then you take their guidance. And you can even ask them about early career opportunities, but don't lead with that. You don't want to go into the conversation saying, I want this type of award. You go in and lead with the research. So thank you for your support on this channel over the years. And once again, I'll ask you to give me a little support there with the like and the subscribe, because I'm trying to build this up so we can support marketing of the book and getting that message out to more people and getting that book in people's hands, because this is a long-term effort to get this book published. I'm really excited about it. So again, thanks for your support and have a great one.